is love? Do, 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 do. What is love? Do, do, do. What is love? What is love? What is love? Hello, I'm Merlin Malilly. Welcome to the Love Show, where we grapple with the question, what is love? Today's show asks, is Jesus love? Commodores sang a song that Lionel Richie wrote called Jesus is Love. Lionel Richie seems to think that Jesus is love, and that his wisdom and words will be our salvation. Let's look at some of the wisdom and words of Jesus and see if we can find out for sure if Jesus is love. I think we may have to agree with Lionel Richie. According to Brainy Quotes, Jesus Christ, as he came to be known, said, "A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another." Heard that said a couple of different ways. I've also heard it said that Jesus said that to his disciples at the Last Supper. I will get into the Christ part a bit more in a minute. But a new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. That sounds like love to me. Sounds like teaching love. So also according to Brainy Quotes, Jesus Christ said, "As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you." Very loving. Also according to Brainy Quotes, Jesus said, "But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the just and the unjust." Wow. That's another level of love. We have talked about the different levels of love before on other love shows. Loving your enemies, though, that's a serious level of love. That's a level of love like forgiveness. Our episode on forgiveness proved that forgiveness is love. It's one of our most popular episodes. I cry on camera, and it's real. Check it out. It's a good one. Maybe loving your enemies is forgiveness. When one needs to forgive another, the other has done something wrong that needs forgiveness. Thus, are those who wrong us our enemies? I guess they are the same thing, loving your enemy and forgiveness. Because you need forgiveness to love your enemy, so I suppose it's all tied together. In the farewell disclosure, 14:23, John states that Jesus said, "If a man loves me, he will keep my word." Love for Jesus Christ is supposed to be our salvation. But who is Jesus Christ? I was raised Catholic. I'm no longer Catholic. But I have always believed in Jesus. I believe he was the King of Kings, just like they said. Well, just like the oracle said. So, since it is so close to Christmas, I thought we'd look into the Christmas story a bit. The three kings have always been my favorite part of the Christmas story. I have discussed them in other love shows too. They've always made me curious. Where did they come from? They just always seemed sort of odd and out of place to me. They followed a star. They blew my mind. So I started asking questions about them when I was a young girl. I'm still asking questions about them. But just this year I figured out something new about them. I figured it out. Proud of myself. But I figured it out with the help of History of Redemption. They put up a whole episode on their YouTube channel entitled The True Date of Christ's Birth. I recommend it highly. Being a Pisces, biblical scholars, Torah scholars, intellectuals all my life, have told me that Jesus was a Pisces like me. The fish is his sign. No pun intended. But there it is. Most scholars agree that Jesus was born in spring. It was by looking at the Christmas story in this way that I discovered so much more about the three kings. Now, I have put together, and I mentioned in other episodes, that I believe that the three kings were sent by the oracle and were of a class of gift-giver priests who worked with the oracle. At the time of Jesus' birth, she would have been the Greek oracle, but she and the priests, it is said, were from Sumeria, which would be east of Bethlehem. The three kings were said to be from the east. Anyway, because of this video from the people at History of Redemption, I was able to figure out that these three kings were in fact kings and priests, and that they did not go there alone. Kings do not travel alone, ever really throughout history. But yet, they're always depicted alone with their little gifts, but kings don't travel alone. They always travel with a big entourage of people and often a whole army. Now, that they came from the east and followed the star in spring is important because that means that none of them was a local king. Because of the oracle's prediction that Jesus would be born in spring, the King of Kings, it took me years, but I finally figured out that it was, in fact, the oracle who said that Jesus would be the King of Kings. And apparently she was not the only person who foresaw this. So at the time, Herod was king of the region where Jesus was born. And Herod had been alerted to the prediction, and as a king of the region, saw this child as a threat and ordered all male babies under 2 in the kingdom to be killed. That is threatened. It wasn't even questioned if the oracle was right or wrong. It was questioned, which kid does Herod need to kill? He knew the oracle would be right, and she was. So according to many scholars, Jesus spent his first months in Egypt, which seems strange. According to History of Redemption, he stayed in Egypt until Herod died, which makes sense, at which time he was circumcised, which is in records and was in mid-spring, right before Passover, like actually the day before Passover. But as shocking as it is that Jesus was born in spring, it is in this detail of being in Egypt until Herod's death that makes me think that Jesus was swept off to Egypt quickly in the night by the 3 kings. One follows stars at night. And it is my belief that the 3 kings were sent by the oracle to give the baby Jesus and his family gifts and safe passage and hiding in Egypt until the tyrant king died. Greece occupied Egypt by this time, and for kings with allies there, they would have been able to protect the child from Herod. Somebody who wasn't a king, like Joseph and Mary, they really wouldn't have been able to protect the baby from Herod, because Herod had armies, legions out to kill these babies. You need legions to fight legions. 3 kings would have had legions. So I believe they protected the baby Jesus with love. That seems like love to me. And not Christian love either. The oracle was not Christian. Really, no one was a Christian at the time of Jesus' birth. Jesus wasn't Christian. Christianity, as we know it, did not really form until after Jesus died. According to History of Redemption, the first recorded history of Christmas being celebrated on December 25th wasn't until 336 AD. "300 years after Christ. That was during the time of Constantine. I have issues with Constantine. But nonetheless, I am pretty sure he established this date for Jesus' birth, December 25th. The Jesus Christ we have come to know from the Bible is predominantly Paul's take on Jesus. That is Paul's take on Jesus after his death. It is said that Paul did not ever actually meet Jesus. According to the folks at Timeline, Paul never met the living Jesus, but he did meet the resurrected Jesus and was guided by him. Jesus was Jewish. His family was Jewish. They all seem to be very devout, as there are records of all of their observations of Hebrew law. Circumcisions, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, weddings, etc. So they observed the Torah. Jesus was, I guess, more like me in that he was raised one way, but found another way that included his original faith, but made it bigger to suit his scope, maybe. That's kind of what I did. I was raised Catholic, but I believed in reincarnation and ghosts and so much more than Catholicism allowed for. So I guess in a sense, I'm still Catholic, although not practicing. That is to say, I don't go to church anymore. But I do go to churches, just as Jesus still went to temples. Because it is a love thing, not a religion thing. And I still believe in Jesus and his teachings. I'm not sure love is a religion per se, but love is certainly a big part of most any religion. But Jesus isn't really a religion. Christ is the religion. Christianity. Right? So according to the online etymology dictionary, Christ, the anointed, synonymous with and translating into Greek Hebrew, Messiah, Old English, Christ, from Latin Christus, from Greek Christos, all meaning the anointed. Apparently it can also mean king. It's kind of like saying, you the man today. Other religions besides Christianity, such as Islam, worship Jesus as a prophet. And as a prophet, people found his words and practices refreshing and inspiring. Thus, they have heard him speak or read his words and said, hey, you the man, in their own way. It's like their applause, their approval, and belief in what he was saying and doing. So just by calling him Christ, people are loving him, showing appreciation for him and his existence. His existence is based upon love, as is all of our existence. But the three kings in the oracle went to great lengths to see that this child was protected with love. Constantine seems to have made up his own story, but I'm sure he did it with love somewhere. The underlying theme in everything about Jesus Christ, though, is love. The Christ part is the love part. So I have to conclude, as someone who is not necessarily even Christian, that Jesus is in fact love. So marry whatever it is that we are celebrating. But if Christ is love, then Christianity could be lovianity just as easily. It could be Jesus' love. Marry lovianity. What is love? It is Jesus. Stay with me. We will keep asking, what is love? I love you. Thanks for watching. Get out there and love each other. For Jesus. He will like that. Mary, Mary.